This is Interpreting Wine founder and host Lawrence Francis inviting you to my first ever Interpreting Wine Hospitality Summit. This first of its kind audio event takes place from Monday the 28th of September until Thursday the 1st of October and will feature a diverse range of voices from London hospitality. Attendees gain early access to episodes over the 4-day event, and each episode will feature a different figure from the London hospitality scene, sharing stories and practical tips to help you navigate these uncertain times. Signing up will give you exclusive access to show notes for each session, giving you a list of key takeaways and strategies you can experiment with right away. And you will also get access to the Interpreting Wine Hospitality Summit private Facebook group, where you can discuss each session and access behind-the-scenes content. To sign up for this free event, just head to interpretingwine.com/summit. Today's episode of the podcast marks the start of a very special 3-part series I've created celebrating organic Spain. We start our journey in the Santa Olalla area of Toledo with Maria Carmen López Delgado of Uva De Vida. This is a very special episode as theirs was one of the very first wineries I ever visited when starting the podcast in 2017. And this episode was recorded at the London Raw Wine Fair way back in 2018. We hear from Carmen the origins of both her interest in wine production and connection with the land, before trying 2 wines coming out of the 9 hectares of Graciano that they farm, the 2012 Uva De Vida Latitude 40 and the 2012 Uva De Vida Septenio, before she looks ahead to the impact they are making in the local community and the message they want their wines to take out into the world. As with previous interviews recorded in Spanish, in this instance it's me giving voice to Carmen's words and thoughts. Enjoy.
Bueno, soy Carmen y pues...
Hello, my name is Carmen. My story is that my parents were farmers and raised livestock, but no one in the family ever really made wine, and we never really had a strong wine culture at home. My parents worked in the field and pretty much that was their lives. My grandmother had planted vines a long time ago, and roughly 5 years ago, my mother suggested that I look after these vines. And pretty much that was where everything started. I realized that grape growing and making wine was a way to make a stronger connection with the past. And so we started to search, myself and my husband. We made connections, we started to visit other vineyards, and on the way, an illness came and made us change our way of living towards a healthier lifestyle. This meant that we wanted to grow grapes in a more sustainable way. Although from the start we were growing organically, we took things a step further and began working biodynamically. We wanted to make a stronger connection with the rhythm of life and health, and we planted our vines in 2007, making our first wine in 2012. We had never studied enology and have never employed a winemaker, taking a leap of faith that grapes want to turn into wine with some help from us, and this is where we find ourselves today. Still questioning, do we improve our wines when we intervene? And at the moment, we doubt it. We feel it's our responsibility to be respectful to the vines, respectful in the bodega, and so we are looking for the healthiest product possible that the earth gives us. The first wine that we're going to try is the 2012 Latitude 40. And so called because at 40 degrees of latitude is where you will find vineyards growing on the earth. This is the first wine that we ever made, and somebody else came to us on our path, and he was the person who guided us towards making wine in a certain way that we have followed and that we see in this wine. The truth is that 2012 was a pretty complicated vintage. The grape itself, Graciano, is a variety that we didn't understand very well when planted in our soils. And at the time, everything was new for us, this being our first vintage. And all the while, we didn't yet have a winery, so we had to make this wine in tanks placed outside in the street. And as you can probably tell, we had no idea how it was going to turn out. We, in fact, didn't hold out much hope. But in the end, everything turned out well. While we were making this wine, at the same time, we found a place to rent where we could put our tanks, and that was the start of our winery. And now, sitting here in 2018, the wine is still tasting great. This is 100% Graciano. We now have 9 hectares of Graciano and another 3 of Tempranillo, which up until now we haven't bottled. As I say, we didn't know much about Graciano, and we chose to grow it quite intuitively. And now, after all these years, we are very happy to have a grape that does well in such warm conditions. Many grapes lose their acidity in such warm growing conditions. Graciano doesn't, and it means that from those conditions we can bottle a wine that represents where it was grown and still retains a certain freshness and drinkability. And Graciano is a variety I've come across in Rioja, and it's quite often used with a lot of wood up in Rioja. But this is a younger style, so yeah, really fresh, really nice deep color, but really very drinkable, and nice tannins as well. And I think this would go really well with food. The second wine that we'll try is the Uva De Vida Septenio, again from vintage 2012. This wine spent 2 years in used French oak, and at the winery we never use new oak in order to, we say, mask our wines. We were very interested to see how this wine would do with oak and how it would change over time. And the story of the wine is that after those 2 years in barrel had passed, we were tasting this wine with a selection of other wines from past vintages. Nothing too formal, it was fairly intuitive really. And from this tasting we came to the decision to add around 5 to 10% of the wine, the same Graciano, but from the 2013, the 2014, and the 2015 vintages. And we found that it was a very special wine, something unique when compared with other wines in our range. It kind of reminds me of a port wine, because on one hand you have the influence of the wine that has been aged those 2 years in wood, and on the other, you have the freshness of the younger wine. This is again Graciano, but in a different style here. This is as you say, reminiscent of port. There's definitely a lot that's happened in the bodega here to bring out a different side of the Graciano. So, yeah, really exciting wine, this one. For us, the most important is to value the work that we do in the vineyard, respecting that everything that comes afterwards, right the way through to the cup, is as a result of that initial work. We want to grow the winery, and we would love that as well as having grapes, we have a farm and animals, and that our winery is a place for people to meet. We want to be able to sell our products to those people that live in the towns nearby. We don't want to be people who only sell our wines abroad and that no one drinks the wines from the region where they are grown. That is the challenge. I want people to value farming work and recognize its contribution to the wider society. To remain aware and help others develop awareness that farming is a primary sector and is super important. It's that which gives us life, literally. In so many ways, we have devalued farming and become disconnected from where our food comes from. And it's making us ill. And here we are spreading that message of greater connection with the land, much more than just making wine. Thank you so much, Maria Carmen. As mentioned before, the visit to your winery and your hospitality were absolutely fundamental in giving me my start in wine in Spain. I'll be forever grateful and cannot wait to visit you again over there and see what changes you've made in the last couple of years. Do be sure to check out the web link below to the Uva De Vida website. It is in Spanish. And also to their Instagram account. And if you're not already, I'd love to have you following along with me on social media, where I'm at Interpreting Wine on Instagram and Facebook, at Wine Podcast on Twitter, and email hello@interpretingwine.com. Next time on the Organic Spain series, in episode 424, we jump over to the Utiel Requena region of Spain, close to Valencia, where I sit down with winemaker Rodolfo Valiente of Vega Alfaro Viñedos y Bodegas. See you then.